known to stimulate body and mind. Boost Guarana. Disgraced, he now scratches a meagre existence at Splish and Splosh World. Stimulate and boost with Guarana. Without it, you're nothing.
Every day, Royal Mail helps the financial services industry reach millions of customers. Every day, our special delivery service guarantees valuable packets arrive quickly and safely. Every day, we deliver over 80 million items for the UK's top businesses. We are the real network, and we make business work.
Super Coney Hollywood. They come from Chillicothe and Paducah.
Plug into 5 on Wednesday night for an evening of Matrix mayhem. Join Keanu and co in the original movie at 9, then go behind the scenes on the sequel in the making of The Matrix Reloaded at 11:50. Right now, it's Fifth Gear.
Have you got More Than car insurance behind you? More Than, sponsors of Fifth Gear.
In this week's Fifth Gear, Adrian's in £250,000 worth of Maybach limo.
And what on earth have they done to the world's best executive saloon? Tom's driving BMW's not-so-pretty new 5 Series.
We're a nation in love with 4x4s. The market for off-roaders is ballooning and sales in Britain are up 20% this year.
We don't mind the lousy fuel consumption, the parking difficulties or the expense of running them because they are our own personal tanks.
We like the idea that the lofty driving position and acres of metal will protect us in an impact. Research in America says that when a small car and a big 4x4 collide, you're 24 times more likely to die in the car than in the 4x4.
And for those with kids, the desire to get an advantage in the highway arms race is even stronger. The result is that they clutter every school run in the land. But there's always been a lingering doubt.
A little nag in the back of our minds that surely something so high is more likely to roll over. And then how safe will we be? All it takes is something in the road to cause you to swerve, and, as Richard Branson found out in his Range Rover, it can all go horribly wrong.
So we've decided to take the bull bar by the horns and find out exactly how easy it is to roll a typical 4x4. We've got one stuntman, one runway, one emergency manoeuvre. What do you think will happen?
Join us later to find out.
Something momentous is coming. The most crucial new car of the year is about to be launched, and it's impossible to overstate its importance. Some have hailed its arrival as tantamount to the second coming. I couldn't wait to set eyes on it. But when I did... Run! It's a new BMW 5 Series! Don't look at it! Run! Well, I'm afraid my first impressions of the new 5 Series were less than positive. Mr. BMW claims styling like this will be all the rage in the future. Trouble is, this is now.
Somebody should tell BMW this isn't funny anymore. It's all very well making the 7 Series look ugly, because you're probably going to buy an S-Class Merc or a Jag anyway. Thing is, if you're going to make something as staggeringly important as the 5 Series look troubled, you're going to start peeing people off.
The old 5 Series was 7 years old, but still the undisputed champion of the world. By rights, this car should raise the bar even higher and annihilate the opposition. Instead, rivals are smelling blood.
I'll tell you why I think this looks funny. The big bum. They were thinking J-Lo, I'm thinking Fat Farm. I mean, take a look at this, Mr. Cameraman. It's got loads of intersecting angles. It looks like lots of cars all stuck together at once. And, excuse me, see this rear overhang? Well, it's too long for the car. It's too big for the size of wheel, and it makes it look heavy. As for this swage line that you can see running all the way down here, well, it's really heavy. It drags the car down in profile, makes it look too fat. When you get to the front, though, well, actually, that's really cool. Come and have a look. It's almost as if this car is wearing a giant pair of wraparound shades. Very, very funky, very stylish. But it's not enough to forgive that side profile. By God, this thing is going to have to be good underneath. Just like ugly girls have to be dirty.
So what can Stuart in sales with the amusing tie boast about if his car hasn't got dazzling film-style looks? Well, managing to be bigger and lighter is a neat trick. There's glorious build quality everywhere. Oh. And the benefit of that big bum is a boot large enough for 4 golf bags. If that doesn't impress your mates, the options will. Like the £880 active steering, which at low speeds will give you full lock with just under a turn of the steering wheel. U-turns are easy peasy. The interior humidity is climate controlled, preventing mucous membranes from going dry, i.e. your snot never goes crusty. Adaptive headlamps are £900 and linked to the steering and light your way round corners, a mere 35 years after the Citroën DS first thought of it. Now, keen viewers know how I find the iDrive system on the 7 Series distracting. Ah! Well, no such problems with the 5. It has a much simpler Play School version, with lots of lovely graphics to help tune the radio, or indeed warm the seats. And coolest of all, £900 will buy a head-up display, like a real-deal fighter pilot. But are all these things a fiendish plot of smoke and mirrors distracting me from the key issue? The 5 Series has always offered a consummate driving experience. So does it still? Well, the first thing to report is the sheer loveliness of this engine. It's a 3-litre straight-six in this 530i, and it's as smooth as buttered... butter. Thing is, it doesn't feel that fast, but crucially, it's smoother and more powerful than the V6 unit they put in the Merc E-Class. You can get a 6-speed manual, a 6-speed automatic, or an SMG semi-automatic paddle shift gearbox. There are a few more engines on the way, though, and the one to watch out for is the 500 horsepower V10 M5, which should put the frighteners on things like jets and slow missiles. Now, this active steering that's so useful in car parks gets much less sensitive when you go a bit faster. Thing is, it takes some getting used to. It doesn't feel particularly numb or artificial, but you do know that something's going on. It's linked to the stability control, and if it senses the car might wag its tail, applies a tiny amount of corrective steering to dampen the wiggle. Theoretically, it means the DSC doesn't have to cut in so early and apply the brakes, which keeps cornering much zoomier. But if all that sounds too intrusive, fear not. You can turn it off. Prices for the 530 will be around £30,000 when it arrives in September. In a nutshell, you have to say that even if it's not very pretty, it is dead brainy.
Look, you got to ask yourself, do you want to turn up to a party and say, meet my wife? I know she's really ugly, but she is very clever. Or would you like to turn up to that same party and say, meet my wife? And yes, she is a supermodel. Face it, we're shallow people. Looks are everything. And BMW, well, I'm not sure they've got it right. But thing is, a Merc E-Class, well, it's plasticky and dead clinical inside. A Jag, well, that's for old men, and the A6, it's just old. So are you going to buy a 5? Well, you are, because BMW's got you over a barrel. It's still the class leader.
Mrs. Ugly wins.
Two weeks ago, we were playing with the Subaru Impreza WRX STI and the Mitsubishi Evo 8. we drove them into the ground and established that the Impreza had the better interior, gearbox and brakes, while the Evo had the edge when it came to the all-important handling. But we asked you to choose the winner, and the results are now in. The Evo took 33% of the votes, and the Impreza scored 67%, so the Impreza is your winner by a 2-to-1 majority. And lucky old David Breer from Leeds is a winner too. His name was first out of the hat, so he wins a fantastic day thrashing the pants off the victorious Impreza, courtesy of Subaru. Just for the record, Tiff and I fancied the Evo more. When will you learn? Coming up, it's a rollover. Or is it? Join us after the break to find out what it takes to topple a 4x4.
More Than, sponsors of Fifth Gear.
Barclays Small Business Specialists help more than 1,000 businesses start up every week.
So, do you want to invite me up for a coffee? A little fooling around. Maybe I could spend the night. We could get engaged, married, kids.
Stop. We've only just met. Keep your change. I prefer things a little slower.
Rouge, never rushed.
Because starting inside tomorrow's Sun, there's a fantastic Scratch a Million game card. We've got a whopping 1 million to give away. 1 in 5 lucky readers will win a cash prize. That's 1 in 5 guaranteed winners.
He was a legend. Terry Dodd, a humble tyre fitter, became the primo tyre changer on the Grand Prix circuit. Inventor of the turbo tyre tightener, he had fame and fortune at his feet.
Lock and load.
But it all went the way of the pair when Tell tested positive for a substance known to stimulate body and mind, Boost Guarana. Disgraced, he now scratches a meagre existence at Splish and Splosh World. Stimulate and boost with Guarana. Without it, you're nothing.
Norwich Union Direct? Yeah, that's right. My car. I'm sure you can cook me happy. Yeah, it's a hatchback.
I think she's happy.
I think so too.
Let Norwich Union Direct put a smile on your face. Call 0800 888 999 and let us quote you happy.
Informing, entertaining, surprising. This May on the History Channel. To subscribe to Sky, call 08702 42 42 42.
Don't let hay fever threaten your summer. Ask for Claritin Allergy. It works fast and won't make you drowsy, so you can get on with your life.
Boss in Motion. Fragrance from Hugo Boss.
To keep your money moving smoothly, Barclays Business Banking has more specialists in more industries than any other bank.
There is only one way to enter the Matrix.
If we fail, Neo fails, and that cannot happen at any cost.
The Matrix goes interactive. Battle alongside the original motion picture cast on a mission that comes down to one question. In the war to save Zion, what part will you play? Enter the Matrix. The future is now in play.
GR44. Why did you not respond? GR44 does not want to play soldiers anymore. GR13 does not agree.
Birch faded too, orange.
GR44 wants to go home. We shall see. Universal Soldier continuing the Van Damme season tonight at 9 on 5.
More Than, sponsors of Fifth Gear.
Imagine you're Mercedes. Luxury is what you do best. But then you learn that arch rivals BMW have bought one of the most opulent car names in the world, Rolls-Royce. And they've been busy working on the recently launched Phantom, possibly the most luxurious car in the world. Yes, yes, Quinton, the Rolls looks very nice, just like your jacket. And you really must lend me that CD of classical music sometime. Nice one. Anyway, what did Mercedes do in reply? Well, they dredged their corporate history and came up with this, the Maybach. Well, there are actually two Maybachs, the Giant 62 and this compact 5.7-metre version. It weighs 3 tonnes, comes with 550 horsepower and can be yours for just under $250,000. And if you think that's enough stats, just look what I've got to play with in here. There are 100 different pieces of wood throughout the cabin. And it's not of the fake variety. Apparently it takes 20 work stages to join millimetre-thick veneers with fine aluminium inlays before adding a final layer of cherry or walnut. Nice one. Not only have the Germans wiped out loads of forests, they've also killed plenty of cows too. But what else do you get apart from wood and leather? Well, there are 2 telephones. There's a fridge buried beneath here. A cigar humidor down here. Somewhere to put the old champers and a couple of flutes for the lucky passenger. A DVD player. If I operate this button, there's some natty blinds behind me. And there's a set of dials so you can keep a check on how the driver's doing. Plus there are 10 airbags, a 600-watt stereo system with 21 speakers, and each seat has Dolby surround sound. And if I delve down here, there's also a table. Plus, if you go for the longer stretch version, which costs £265,000, you get a set of beds, just like on a VW camper. Hi caramba. Plus, it gets even better. Every car comes with its own virtual butler, which you can call and use to book theatre tickets, reserve airline seats, and anything else that's beneath you. The Maybach is just as impressive for what you don't get as well as what you do get. There's absolutely no road noise, and it's so well insulated. Well, we're in central London, and all I can hear is the whisper of the air conditioning. And there's not a peep from the engine, and that is staggering, because underneath this bonnet is a 5.5-litre V12 bi-turbo lump that has the highest torque and power output of any series production car. But the really bonkers bit is that engine will get all 2.7 tonnes of this car from 0 to 60 in 5.2 seconds. 5.2 seconds! That leaves the Phantom a whole half second behind. So what do you think of that, Rolls-Royce? But don't be fooled into thinking that £250,000 suddenly entitles you to exclusivity. Apart from the stunning ride and that giant laxative of an engine, lesser mortals in their Merc S&E classes can all buy into the Maybach 57's technology, such as sensortronic brakes, air suspension and voice-activated controls for a fraction of the price, which is annoying for this kind of money. So what do we think of the Maybach? Well, for my money, the 57 is a bit too much like a chunky S-Class, albeit a very good one. If you want one of these cars, however, my advice is to go for the Stretch 62 with everything on it, because in that very special car, Mercedes might just have something to make Rolls-Royce's eyes water.
This is COG, the car ad unlike any other car ad, that's made us forget in an instant Vorsprung durch Technik, Peugeots in Fields of Flames, Papa and Nicole. It's currently entertaining the world in a commercial break near you, and it's remarkable because there are no special effects or computer tricks involved. It's all done for real. A team of engineers and sculptors stripped two Honda Accords to the bare bones, chose 85 key components, and then toiled on a script for a month. After 6 more months of painstaking drawing and testing, they were finally ready to film. But all did not go according to plan. Just being a few millimetres out would ruin the momentum of the chain reaction and mean a complete reset. In fact, they went without sleep for 4 days, doing 606 takes before everything finally worked as it should. The best bits have to be the wheels that climb uphill, thanks to precisely laid weights, and the rain-sensitive wipers that crab across the floor. Critics are sure that despite its relatively low £750,000 cost, COG will sweep the board at the forthcoming advertising awards, and debate over its inspiration is already raging. Was it the board game Mousetrap, or was it a little-known Swiss animated film? Either way, who'd have thought all those trendy advertising execs would get so excited by humble transmission bearings? Who do they think they are? The MG Owners Club?
Back then to the question as to whether or not off-roaders are quite as safe as we think they are. We merrily trundle along in our 4x4s, towering above the traffic around us, quite happy in the belief that we're perfectly safe in our tough, mobile fortress. But riding so high, are we actually as safe as we think we are?
American figures would suggest not. In fact, you might be just one swerve away from disaster. Despite the fact that when a car collides with a 4x4, you're better off in the 4x4, overall, the death rate in off-roaders, or SUVs as the Americans class them, is worse than for ordinary cars. So how can that be? Well, American statistics show that SUVs are more likely to roll over than ordinary cars. Surprisingly, there isn't a reliable test to measure a car's tendency to topple. There are standard tests involving a variety of turns and circles, but it's not clear how they relate to real-life situations. Manufacturers still rely heavily on the gut feel of experienced testers to check for stability. The American Road Safety Agency has an index to predict how likely a 4x4 is to roll over. It's based on the height of the car's centre of gravity and the car's track, the distance between the wheels. They rate cars from 1 to 5 stars, the more the better. The American versions of Toyota's RAV4 and Honda's CR-V get 3 stars, and the US Jeep Grand Cherokee gets 2. But these ratings don't take into account important variables such as the softness of the suspension or the stickiness of the tyres. So what does it take to roll a typical 4x4? What does it take to turn a motorway journey into a whirling white line nightmare?
Well, of course, it's possible to roll any car, whether it's a 4x4 or not. If you hit a ditch or a curb at the wrong speed, the wrong angle, you're going to go over. But there is one place where a car and a 4x4 react very differently, on a nice piece of flat tarmac. Imagine you're cruising down the motorway, 70 miles an hour, suddenly the car in front brakes. You swerve one way, you swerve the other, and however good a driver you are, with no stability control, you're going to spin out. And as long as you don't hit anything, you'll come to a perfectly harmless standstill, a bit shaken maybe. And even when I drove the saloon faster and faster, all it would do was spin. So, what would happen if you're in a 4x4? To find out, we bought this ordinary Range Rover. Quite an old one, but there are many on the second-hand market. We hired specialists to equip it with a rollover cage, racing seat, full safety harness, safety fuel tank, and, to give you a driver's eye view, a shock-resistant camera. We also brought in a professional stunt driver, Julian Spencer, who, with a few basic precautions, was prepared to put our 4x4 to the test. And, as even we didn't know ourselves what was going to happen, we had an ambulance and a fire crew on standby, just in case. Again, a simple motorway simulation, but now at just 45 miles an hour. Suddenly the car will brake and the 4x4 will need to swerve to avoid a rear-end impact.
Tiff had found it impossible to roll the car, but our stunt driver found it easy to roll the 4x4.
And remember, this is at only 45 miles an hour. Imagine what would have happened if Julian had been doing 70. For Julian, it was just another day in the office. For 4x4 drivers, a shocking image of what might be. If it hadn't been for the rollover cage, the damage would have been even worse. But of course, the latest 4x4s have come a long way since this old Range Rover. The latest Range Rover has air suspension that lowers the car and its centre of gravity at speed to improve stability. And, like the new Volvo XC90, stability control to cut power or apply brakes when you're likely to get into trouble. Added to that, more car-like suspension without a separate chassis improves the handling of many 4x4s, including this BMW X5. There's even talk in the future of systems to prevent you steering too sharply for a car's equilibrium. But I'm not sure if I'd fancy that if I was heading for a tree. Plus, there are already better curtain airbags to protect passengers in rollovers and stiffer roof structures that resist rollover impacts. But whatever they've done to improve 4x4s, I still wouldn't try this sort of emergency avoidance test in any of them. Their centres of gravity are simply too high. You may think you're safer in a 4x4. Me, I'm not so sure. Of course, ours wasn't a proper scientific test, but surely that's the point. We need one.
Next week, I'm driving the new Pluto 206 GTI 180. Is it finally a proper hot hatch?
And I'm driving Aston's final attempt to make a decent DB7.
Well, the road isn't the only place where major mishaps can occur, as some of the bizarre TV outtakes prove in tonight's episode of Lights, Camera, Accident at 8. And don't forget, for further information on any of the items in today's Fifth Gear, including competitions, you can log on to our website at 5.tv/fifthgear.